I saw my sister lying on a doormat like a dog. My own son wiped his shoes on her back, and when he looked up and saw me standing there, his face went white as paper. Let me take you back to the beginning, because this story, it's gonna break your heart before it heals it. My name is Margaret. Most folks call me Maggie. I'm 56 years old, and until 18 months ago, I thought I knew exactly who my son was. I thought I raised him right. I thought I taught him kindness. Turns out, I didn't know him at all. My sister Claire is 3 years younger than me. She's the sweetest soul you'll ever meet. The kind of woman who gives you her last dollar and pretends she didn't need it anyway. She'd cook meals for neighbors, babysit kids for free, volunteer at the church food bank every single Saturday. Claire never married, never had kids of her own. She always said Tyler was enough for her. Tyler, my son. Growing up, Tyler adored his Aunt Claire, and she treated him like he hung the moon. Every birthday, she'd bake his favorite red velvet cake. Every school play, she was in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. When Tyler scraped his knee, it was Aunt Claire's bandages he wanted. When Tyler had nightmares, he'd call her on the phone at 2 a.m. She never once complained, not once. See? My husband Richard passed away when Tyler was just 7. Heart attack. Sudden, no warning. One day he was teaching Tyler how to ride a bike, and the next ... He was gone. I fell apart. I'm not proud of it, but I did. For almost 2 years, I could barely function. I went through the motions, sure. I showed up. I made lunches. I signed permission slips, but I wasn't really there. Claire stepped in. She moved into our guest room without being asked. She cooked, cleaned, helped Tyler with homework. She held me when I cried at 3 a.m. She never judged, never complained. She saved us, and when I finally pulled myself together, when I finally started living again, Claire quietly moved back to her little apartment across town. She never asked for anything in return, not a single thing. Years passed. Tyler grew up. He went to college, got a business degree, and landed a job at a marketing firm downtown. I was so proud. So proud. Then he met Vanessa. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I hated her from the start. That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be honest. But something about her, it didn't sit right with me. Vanessa came from money. Old money. The kind of family that has a summer house and a winter house and probably a spring house too. She wore designer clothes and drove a car that cost more than my entire house. And she looked at Tyler like he was a project she was working on. I mentioned it once too. Claire, maybe I'm just being overprotective, I said. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there. Claire tilted her head, thinking. Then she said, Maggie, you've got good instincts. But Tyler's a grown man now. He's got to make his own choices, even the wrong ones. She was right, of course, but I had no idea just how wrong those choices would become. Tyler and Vanessa got married 2 years later. Big fancy wedding. Vanessa's parents paid for the whole thing. I felt like a guest at my own son's wedding, sitting in the back while her family took up the entire front section. Claire noticed. She squeezed my hand during the ceremony and whispered, "He's still our Tyler." But was he? After the wedding, things changed. Slowly at first. So slowly I almost didn't notice. Tyler started calling less, visiting less. His texts became shorter, more formal, like he was writing to a coworker instead of his mother. I told myself he was busy. Newlyweds, right? They need their space. But then something happened. Something that changed everything. It was about 18 months ago. I'd been having these headaches. Bad ones. The kind that make you see spots. I ignored them for weeks, thinking it was stress, thinking it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. The doctors found a tumor. Small, but dangerous. It was pressing on something important in my brain, they said. I needed surgery immediately. The surgery went well. But the recovery, that was going to take time. Months of rehabilitation, therapy, rest. I couldn't live alone. Not safely. Not for a while. I called Tyler. "Mom," he said, and his voice sounded strange, distant. That's rough. But look, Vanessa and we're really busy right now. We just bought this new house and there's renovations. And Tyler, I said quietly, I need help. There was a long pause. What about Aunt Claire? He finally said. My heart sank a little. But I understood. He was building a new life. He had responsibilities. And Claire. Claire would never say no. So I called her. Maggie, she said instantly, I'm packing my bag right now. Don't you worry about a thing. See what I mean? That's Claire. But here's the thing. Claire's apartment building was being sold. She'd gotten a notice that all tenants needed to be out within 60 days. She had nowhere to go, so I made a decision. Claire, I said, stay at my house. Take care of it while I'm at the rehabilitation center. It's yours for as long as you need it. She protested. Of course. Said it was too much. Said she'd figure something out, but I insisted. You've saved me once, I told her. Let me do this for you. She finally agreed, so that was the plan. I'd go to the rehabilitation center upstate. Claire would stay at my house. And Tyler. Well, Tyler would check in on her from time to time. At least that's what he promised. I'll swing by every week, Mom, he said on the phone before I left. Make sure Aunt Claire's okay. Make sure the house is fine. Thank you, sweetheart, I said. That means a lot. He paused. Then he said something strange. Mom, you trust me, right? Of course I trust you, I said. You're my son. Good, he said. Good, because I've got some ideas. About the house. About the future. We can talk about it when you're better. I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. The first few weeks at the rehabilitation center were rough. The therapy was exhausting. I could barely stay awake past 7 in the evening. But slowly I started getting better. Claire called me every single day, sometimes twice. The house is fine, Maggie. The garden looks beautiful. Oh, and I fixed that squeaky door in the bathroom. You know the one? I smiled every time I heard her voice. But around the 2-month mark, something changed. Claire's calls became shorter, quieter. She sounded tired, distracted. You okay? I asked her one evening. Oh, I'm fine, she said quickly. Too quickly. Just busy, you know. Keeping the house clean, cooking, the usual. Claire. Really, Maggie? Don't worry about me. Focus on getting better. I tried to believe her. I really did. But something in my gut was screaming that something was wrong. I called Tyler. Hey, Mom, he said cheerfully. How you feeling? I'm good. Tyler, have you been checking on Aunt Claire? Sure, he said. She's great. House looks amazing. She's doing a wonderful job. She sounds tired, I said. Well, you know, Aunt Claire, she works too hard. Always has. That was true, so I let it go. But the feeling didn't go away. About 4 months in, Claire stopped calling every day. Sometimes 3 or 4 days would pass without a word. When I called her, she'd pick up but barely talk. Claire, what's going on? Nothing, Maggie. I'm just tired. That's all. Do you want me to come home early? I can. No. She said it so sharply that I flinched. Then softer, no, please. Stay there. Get better. I'm fine. Everything's fine. But her voice cracked when she said it, and that's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I started asking questions. Called Tyler again. Tyler, I need you to tell me the truth. What's going on with Aunt Claire? Mom, I already told you. She's fine. Then why won't she talk to me? He sighed. Look, I didn't want to say anything, but Aunt Claire's been acting kind of weird lately. Forgetful, confused, I think, maybe. Maybe it's early dementia or something. My blood ran cold. What? Yeah, Tyler continued. Vanessa noticed it first. Little things. Claire leaving the stove on. Forgetting where she put her keys. Talking to herself that doesn't sound like Claire. I know. It's sad. But these things happen, Mom. Old age, you know. Claire was 53. That wasn't old. But Tyler's voice was so calm. So reasonable. So ... convincing. I didn't know what to believe. Maybe, Tyler said gently, when you come home, we should talk about options for Aunt Claire. Places that can take care of her properly. Places. He meant facilities. Nursing homes. Tyler, she's not mom. I know you love her. I love her too. But we gotta face reality. She's changing. And she needs more help than any of us can give. I hung up feeling sick. Was Claire really losing her mind? Had I missed the signs? Had I been so focused on my own recovery that I ignored what was happening to my sister? The guilt was crushing. But something else was gnawing at me too. A tiny voice in the back of my head saying, "This doesn't add up, Claire." Had always been sharp, organized. She balanced checkbooks for fun. She did crossword puzzles in ink. She never forgot a birthday, a phone number, or a face. Dementia. At 53. Out of nowhere. It didn't make sense, but I was stuck in that rehabilitation center, 300 miles away. Helpless. I tried calling Claire again. This time someone else answered. Hello. It was Vanessa. Vanessa, why do you have Claire's phone? Oh, Margaret. Hi. Her voice was syrupy. Fake. Claire's resting. She's been so tired lately. I'm just helping out. I want to talk to my sister. She's really not up for it right now. You understand, don't you? No, I said firmly. I don't understand. Put her on the phone. A pause. Then I'll have her call you later. She hung up. Claire never called back. That night, I made a decision. I was leaving early against medical advice if I had to. Something was wrong with my sister. And I was going to find out what. I discharged myself the next morning. The doctors weren't happy, but they couldn't stop me. I signed the papers, packed my bag, and caught the first bus home. The ride was 7 hours. 7 hours of my stomach churning. 7 hours of running through every possibility in my head. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe Claire really was sick. But maybe something else was happening. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes. When the bus finally pulled into town, it was late afternoon. The sun was starting to dip. I took a cab to my house, my heart pounding the whole way. But when we turned onto my street, I froze. There were cars everywhere. Fancy cars, BMWs, Mercedes, a Porsche, parked all along my quiet little street and in my driveway. Tyler's car. And Vanessa's what the hell was going on? I paid the cab driver and got out slowly. My legs were shaky. My head was pounding. But I walked up the driveway. The front door was open. I could hear music, laughter, the clink of glasses. They were having a party in my house. I stepped onto the porch, peeked through the doorway. The living room was packed with people I didn't recognize. Everyone dressed to the nines, champagne flowing, fancy appetizers on silver trays, and there, in the center of it all, stood Tyler and Vanessa, smiling, glowing, like they owned the place, actually, They were acting like they did own the place. I heard Tyler's voice carry across the room. Yeah, we've done a lot of renovations, he was saying to some man in a suit. This place has great bones. Vanessa's really transformed it. Transformed it. This was my house. I felt rage bubbling up, but I pushed it down. I needed to stay calm. I needed to find Claire. I scanned the room, no sign of her. I moved through the crowd, ignored by everyone. Nobody recognized me. Nobody even looked at me. I checked the kitchen, nothing. The bathroom, empty. I was about to head upstairs when I heard something. That made my blood freeze. A commotion? Near the front door, a woman's voice. Oh, Tyler. Is that your housekeeper? She looks interesting. Laughter. I turned and pushed my way back toward the entrance, and that's when I saw it. That's when I saw something that I will never, ever forget as long as I live. Claire, my baby sister. She was lying on the floor by the front door, on a worn-out doormat, wearing clothes I wouldn't use to wash my car. Torn, stained, her hair was matted. Her face was thin. too thin. Like she hadn't been eating and she was sleeping on the floor like a dog. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and then Tyler walked over. He didn't see me. He was too busy laughing at something, Vanessa, said Dot. He stopped right in front of Claire and he wiped his shoes on her back, like she was a doormat, like she was nothing. One of the guests giggled nervously. Tyler, who is that? And my son. My son looked at that woman and smiled. Oh, that's just our crazy maid. Don't mind her. She's special. More laughter. Special. He called my sister special, like she was a joke, like she wasn't human. Something inside me snapped, but I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I took one step forward, and every single person in that room turned to look at me. Tyler's smile vanished. His face went white. Mom? The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Every pair of eyes was on me. Every champagne glass frozen mid-sip. Every fake smile melting right off their faces. Tyler stood there, his hand still hovering near Claire's body, his shoe still dirty from wiping it on my sister's back. Ah, he said again, his voice cracking. What are you? I thought you weren't coming back until when, Tyler? My voice was calm. It's calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a storm. Until you finished whatever the hell this is. Vanessa stepped forward, her face rearranging itself into that fake sweet expression I'd come to hate. Margaret, what a surprise! You should have called ahead. We would have what? I cut her off. Hidden my sister better. I walked toward Claire. My legs were shaking, but I didn't care. I knelt down beside her, touched her face. She was cold, so cold. Claire, I whispered. Claire, honey, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open. And when she saw me, when she realized it was really me, ... she started crying. Not soft, gentle tears, deep, broken sobs. The kind of crying that comes from a place so hurt, so damaged, that words can't touch it. Ah, Maggie, she whispered. Maggie, you came. I pulled her into my arms. She was so light, so fragile, like holding a bird with broken wings. I'm here, I said. I'm here now. The guests were starting to murmur, uncomfortable, confused. One by one, they began setting down their glasses, reaching for their coats. "'Kay? Everyone," Tyler announced, his voice strained. "Party's over. Family emergency. You understand?" They filed out quickly. Nobody wanted to be part of whatever this was. Within 5 minutes, the room was empty except for me, Claire, Tyler. And Vanessa. The door clicked shut. And then Tyler's mask came off. "Mom, you weren't supposed to be here," he said. His voice harder now, colder. "The doctor said you needed more time. The doctors don't get to decide when I check on my own sister." I looked up at him. "What have you done to her?" "We haven't done anything," Vanessa jumped in. "She's been taken care of, fed, sheltered, more than most people would do for someone in her ... condition. Her condition." I stood up slowly, still holding Claire's hand. "What condition? What are you talking about?" Tyler sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Mom, I told you on the phone. Aunt Claire isn't well. She's confused, forgetful. She can't take care of herself. You made her sleep on the floor? You dressed her in rags? You called her your maid. It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Tyler? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been treating my sister like a slave." Vanessa scoffed. "Oh, please. We gave her a roof over her head. We gave her purpose." "Purpose?" My voice rose. "Purpose? She was living here for free, Margaret." Vanessa crossed her arms. The least she could do was help around the house. I stared at her. Then at Tyler. My son wouldn't meet my eyes. And in that moment, I realized something that shattered my heart into a million pieces. He knew. He knew exactly what was happening. He wasn't being manipulated by Vanessa. He wasn't being fooled or tricked. He was part of it. Maybe he was even leading it. "Tyler," I said quietly, "look at me." He didn't move. "Look at me." Finally, He raised his head, and what I saw in his eyes, it wasn't shame. It wasn't guilt, it was annoyance, like I was inconveniencing him. Mom, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Aunt Claire is fine. She's a little tired, that's all. We've been renovating, and she wanted to help stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. I turned back to Claire, helped her to her feet. She leaned against me, barely able to stand. I'm taking her upstairs, I said. She's going to take a bath, eat a proper meal, and sleep in a real bed. And then you and I are going to have a conversation. I didn't wait for a response. I guided Claire toward the stairs. She moved slowly, each step painful. When we reached the top, I noticed something. The guest room door, Claire's room, had a padlock on it from the outside. My stomach lurched. Claire, where have you been sleeping? She didn't answer. Just pointed down the hall. Toward the basement door. No. I walked to the basement door and opened it. The smell hit me first. Damp, musty, cold. I flipped on the light and looked. Down there was a thin mattress on the concrete floor. A single blanket. A bucket in the corner. A bucket for months. My sister had been sleeping in my basement like a prisoner. I couldn't breathe. I thought I might collapse right there. But I didn't because Claire needed me. I closed the basement door and led her to my bedroom instead. The master bedroom. I helped her into the bathroom, started a warm bath, found clean towels. Take your time, I told her. I'll bring you something to eat. She grabbed my hand, held it tight. Maggie. I'm sorry. Sorry? I blinked. Why are you sorry? I should have called you. Should have told you what was happening. But they said if I told you, it would stress you out. That you'd have another episode. That you might die. My heart stopped. They told you I'd die. Claire nodded, tears streaming down her face. They said you were sicker than you knew. That any shock could kill you. So I stayed quiet. I didn't want to hurt you, Maggie. I just didn't want to hurt you. I pulled her into a hug, held her as tight as I could. You could never hurt me, I whispered. Never. But someone else could, and someone else had. I left Claire to bathe and went downstairs. Tyler and Vanessa were in the living room, whispering urgently to each other. They stopped the moment they saw me. Mom, sit down. I didn't move. I said, sit down. Something in my voice made them obey. They sat on the couch side by side like children caught doing something wrong. I remained standing. I want you to tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. And I swear to God, if you lie to me one more time, I will make sure you regret it for the rest of your lives. Tyler's jaw tightened. Vanessa looked at her nails. Fine, Tyler finally said. You want the truth? Here's the truth. He leaned back, like this was a business negotiation. When you went to the rehabilitation center, you gave Aunt Claire permission to stay here. But she wasn't just staying. She was living, eating your food, using your utilities, running up bills. She was taking care of my house. That was the arrangement. Yeah, well, arrangements change. Tyler shrugged. I started coming by more often, like you asked. And I realized something. This house, it's worth a lot, Mom. A lot more than you think. Real estate in this area has skyrocketed. Vanessa and I, we started thinking about the future. I felt sick. The future. Our future. Your future. Everyone's future. He spread his hands. Mom, you're not getting any younger. You just had brain surgery. What happens next time? What if you don't make it? So you decided to take my house before I died? No. No, that's not. He paused, collected himself. We were thinking ahead. That's all. And Aunt Claire. She was in the way. In the way of what? Tyler glanced at Vanessa. She gave him a small nod. He wanted to move in, he said. Start making improvements. Increase the property value. Then, when the time was right, we could sell it. Split the profits. Split the profits. I repeated slowly. This is my home, Tyler. I've lived here for 30 years. Your father and I bought this house together, okay? And Dad's been dead for almost 20 years. Mom, times change. You have to be practical. Practical. My son was talking about stealing my home, and he called it practical. But I still didn't understand Claire's role in all this. What does any of this have to do with my sister? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. She wouldn't leave. What? We told her you wanted her out, that you'd called and said she needed to go. But she didn't believe us. She said she'd wait until she heard it from you directly. Smart Claire. Loyal Claire. So when she wouldn't leave, I trailed off. We had to get creative, Vanessa said flatly. We couldn't physically throw her out. That would look bad. So we encouraged her to make herself useful. Useful. Cooking, cleaning, laundry. Vanessa examined her manicure. She's actually quite good at it. Once she understood her place, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to grab my son by the shoulders and shake him until he remembered who he used to be, but I didn't. Because anger wasn't going to fix this. Anger wasn't going to help. Claire, I needed to be smart. And the guests today? I asked quietly. What was that about? Tyler actually smiled a little. Investors. Potential buyers. We were showing off the property, demonstrating its potential. And Claire on the floor. His smile faded. That wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to stay in the basement during the party. But she tried to leave. Tried to sneak out the front door. So you stopped her. Contained the situation. Contained. He talked about my sister like she was a problem to be managed, a pest to be controlled. I stared at him for a long moment. This wasn't my son. This couldn't be my son. The little boy who cried when he stepped on a caterpillar. The teenager who volunteered at animal shelters. The young man who used to call his aunt every Sunday just to check in. Where did that person go? Tyler, I said slowly, do you understand what you've done? He frowned. We've done what needed to be done. You've imprisoned a woman in her own family's home. You've starved her, degraded her, traumatized her, and you've done it all under my roof, using my name. It's a bit dramatic. It's the truth. I stepped closer. And here's something else that's true. This house is still in my name. Every single thing in it is mine. And as of right now, you are trespassing. Vanessa laughed. Actually laughed. Margaret, be serious. Tyler is your son. You're not going to get out. The laughter died. What? I said, get out. Both of you now. Tyler stood up, his face reddening. Mom, you can't just kick us out. We've been living here for months. We've put money into this place. Money you stole from my savings account. He froze. Yeah, I knew about that too. The rehabilitation center had been expensive, but not that expensive. I'd noticed the discrepancies in my statements. The unexpected withdrawals. I'd assumed it was a banking error. Now I knew better. How did you? I had a lot of time to think in that center, Tyler. A lot of time to go through my accounts online. A lot of time to notice things that didn't add up. His face was turning purple now. That money was going to be mine eventually anyway. Eventually is not now. My voice cracked like thunder. Eventually doesn't give you the right to steal. Eventually doesn't give you the right to torture my sister. Eventually doesn't make you God. Vanessa grabbed Tyler's arm. We should go. We're not going anywhere. Tyler shook her off. This is ridiculous. Mom, you're clearly still sick. You're not thinking straight. Tomorrow we'll talk about this calmly, and you'll realize, I'll realize what? That my son has become a monster. That the boy I raised, the boy I sacrificed everything for, has turned into someone capable of treating another human being like garbage. She's not Tyler caught himself, but it was too late. I saw it in his eyes. She's not a person to him anymore. She's nothing. Get out, I said again. Quieter this time. Get out of my house or I call the police. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other, mother and son, Strangers. Finally, Vanessa tugged at Tyler's arm again. Come on, we'll come back tomorrow when she's calmed down. Tyler's jaw clenched, but he nodded. They walked to the door. Tyler paused, looked back at me. You're making a mistake. Mom, the only mistake I made, I said quietly, was trusting you. The door slammed behind them. I stood there for a long moment, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. Then I went upstairs to check on Claire. She was out of the bath, wrapped in a soft robe, sitting on my bed. She looked cleaner, but still so fragile. So broken. I heard yelling, she said softly. Is everything okay? They're gone, I said, and they're not coming back. Claire's eyes filled with tears again. Maggie, I'm so sorry about Tyler. I never meant to come between. Stop. I sat down beside her, took her hands. None of this is your fault. Do you hear me? None of it. But he's your son. He's a stranger. The words hurt coming out. The son I raised wouldn't have done this. That person is gone. Claire leaned against me, and we sat in silence for a while, but I knew this wasn't over. Tyler and Vanessa weren't going to give up that easily. They'd invested too much time, too much energy, too much twisted hope into their plan. They'd be back. And when they came back, I needed to be ready. That night, after Claire fell asleep, I made some phone calls. First, I called a locksmith. Had all the locks changed first thing in the morning. Second, I called my bank. Froze all my accounts pending a fraud investigation. Third, I called a lawyer, an old friend of Richard's from way back, someone I trusted. Margaret, he said, concern in his voice. What's going on? I told him everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then he said, we're going to fix this. I promise you, we're going to fix all of it. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly have known, was that Tyler and Vanessa had a backup plan. A plan so twisted, so cruel, that when I discovered it, my entire world turned upside down. And that discovery happened exactly 3 days later, when someone knocked on my front door. Someone I never expected to see. Someone who changed everything. 3 days. That's how long it took for the next bomb to. Drop. Claire was slowly getting better. She was eating real food again, sleeping in a real bed. The color was starting to return to her cheeks. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'd catch a glimpse of her old smile. But she was still fragile, still jumpy. Every time the phone rang, she flinched. Every time a car drove by, she tensed up. Tyler and Vanessa had done a number on her, and I was going to make sure they paid for it. My lawyer, Harold, had been working overtime. He'd already filed preliminary paperwork to investigate the financial fraud. He'd also started looking into whether what Tyler and Vanessa did to Claire constituted criminal charges. Elder abuse is taken very seriously in this state, he told me. Claire may be only 53, but what they did? The confinement, the degradation, the psychological manipulation. It fits the pattern. Good, I wanted them to face consequences. Real consequences. But on the morning of the third day, something happened that I didn't expect. It was around 10 in the morning. Claire was in the kitchen making tea. I was going through old photo albums, trying to find some happy memories to hold on to. Then the doorbell rang. Claire froze. It's okay, I said gently. I'll get it. I walked to the door, looked through the peephole, and my heart stopped. Standing on my porch was a woman I didn't recognize. She was young, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes and messy hair. She was holding a folder stuffed with papers, and beside her, holding her hand, was a little boy. He couldn't have been more than 4 years old. He looked exactly like Tyler did at that age. I opened the door slowly. Can I help you? The woman looked at me with a mixture of fear and determination. Are you Margaret? Tyler's mother. My blood went cold. Double quotes. Yes. Who are you? She took a deep breath. My name is Danielle, and this. She looked down at the little boy. This is your grandson. The world tilted. I grabbed the door frame to steady myself. I'm sorry. What? Can I come in? Please. Danielle's voice cracked. I know this is a lot, but there are things you need to know. Things about your son that you need to hear. I stared at her, at the boy, at those familiar eyes looking up at me with innocent curiosity. Come in, I said quietly. Claire appeared in the hallway as I led them to the living room. Her eyes went wide when she saw the child. Ah, Maggie, who is that? I don't know yet. I turned to Danielle. Sit down and start from the beginning. Danielle sat on the edge of the couch, pulling the little boy onto her lap. He immediately started playing with a toy car he'd pulled from his pocket, oblivious to the tension in the room. His name is Oliver, Danielle said softly. Allie for short. He just turned 4 last month. I did the math in my head. 4 years old. That meant he was born right around the time Tyler and Vanessa got engaged. Oh, God. Kyler is his father, Danielle continued. We met at his company. I was a receptionist. He was ... charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. She laughed bitterly. I was so stupid. What happened? I asked gently. We had an affair. It lasted about 6 months. Then I found out I was pregnant. She looked down at Oliver. When I told Tyler, he ... changed completely. The charming man I knew disappeared. He became cold, threatening. He said if I ever told anyone about the baby, he'd destroy me. My stomach churned. Gave me money to go away. Enough to survive for a while. He made me sign papers promising I'd never contact him or his family, never reveal Oliver's existence, and you agreed. I was scared. Tears welled in her eyes. I was 26 years old, pregnant, and alone. He had lawyers, money, power. I didn't have anything. I reached out and took her hand. You're not alone anymore. Danielle squeezed my fingers gratefully. For 4 years, I kept my mouth shut. I raised Oliver on my own. Worked 2 jobs. Did everything I could to give him a good life. But then I heard what happened. What do you mean? She pulled the folder from her bag and handed it to me. One of my old coworkers reached out a few days ago. She'd heard rumors about Tyler and some kind of scandal, about his mother coming home and finding her sister being abused. She thought I should know. I opened the folder. Inside were documents, bank statements, emails, text messages, and photographs. Photos of Tyler and Vanessa at fancy restaurants, on expensive vacations, buying jewelry and designer clothes, all dated within the last 18 months while I was in rehabilitation, while Claire was being treated like a slave, while my savings were being drained. Started digging, Danielle said. I still have some contacts at the company, and I found out it's not just you, Margaret. It's not just your money. She pointed to one of the documents. Tyler and Vanessa have been running a scheme. They target elderly relatives, usually people without children or people who are sick. They move in, gain their trust, take control of their finances. And then ... double quotes, they take everything. Everything. One woman in Florida lost her entire retirement fund. Another in Texas lost her house. There are at least 4 other victims. That I could find. I stared at the papers in disbelief. My son wasn't. Just cruel. He was a professional con artist, and I was supposed to be his biggest score. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Why come forward after all these years? Danielle looked at Oliver. The little boy was still playing with his car, making quiet vroom vroom sounds. Because he deserves to know who his father really is. And because she hesitated. Because Tyler found out I'd been asking questions. He called me last night, threatened me. Said if I didn't stop, he'd take Oliver away from me. Said he'd prove I was an unfit mother. Her voice broke. I can't lose my son. I can't. But I also can't let Tyler keep hurting people. So I thought, maybe together. Maybe we could stop him. I looked at Claire. She looked back at me, and I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen in months. Fire. Danielle, I said slowly, how would you feel about helping us take my son down? She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, really take him down. Not just stop him. End this. Make sure he never hurts anyone again. Danielle straightened up. I'm in. Whatever you need. And that's when Claire spoke for the first time since Danielle arrived. I have an idea. We all turned to look at her. They think I'm broken, she said quietly. They think I'm weak and confused and helpless. They've been telling everyone I have dementia, right? I nodded. So let them keep believing it. A small smile crossed Claire's face. Let them underestimate me. Let them think they've won. What are you suggesting? Claire stood up, her posture straighter than I'd seen in weeks. I'm suggesting we beat them at their own game. Over the next 2 weeks, we put together a plan. Harold, my lawyer, coordinated everything. He contacted the other victims Danielle had identified. One by one, they agreed to cooperate, to share their stories, to provide evidence. Meanwhile, I played dumb. Tyler called a few days after I kicked him out. His voice was soft, apologetic, dripping with fake sincerity. Mom, I'm so sorry about everything. We went too far. I know that now. Can we talk, please? I made my voice shaky, uncertain. I don't know, Tyler. I'm still so upset. ... I understand. I do. But we're family. Mom, we can work through this. Maybe I could come by this weekend. We could have dinner. Talk things out. Maybe, I said. Let me think about it. I hung up and looked at Harold. He's taken the bait. Harold nodded. Good. Let's get ready. That weekend, Tyler and Vanessa showed up at my door. They brought flowers, chocolates, wine. They were all smiles, all warmth, all charm. It made me sick. But I played along. Come in, I said, ushering them inside. Claire made dinner. Isn't that nice? Tyler's eyes flickered with something surprise, maybe, or suspicion when he saw Claire in the kitchen. Looking healthy and alert, but he recovered quickly. And Claire, you look wonderful. So much better than before. Thank you, Tyler, Claire said sweetly. I've been getting a lot of rest. We sat down to eat. The conversation was awkward, stilted, but I kept it going. Asked about their jobs, their plans, their life, and then, as dessert was being served, I made my move. You know, I said casually, I've been thinking about what you said. About the house, about the future. Tyler perked up. Really? Really, I'm not getting any younger. And after everything that happened, maybe it's time I started planning ahead. Vanessa leaned forward, barely containing her excitement. That's very wise, Margaret. We've been looking at some options. Actually, I interrupted. I've already spoken to a lawyer. Tyler's face twitched. A liar. Harold. You remember Harold? He was a friend of your father's. I smiled innocently. He's helped me draw up some new paperwork. A new will. Power of attorney documents. That sort of thing. Tyler relaxed slightly. That's great, Mom. Really responsible. I thought so too. In fact, I'd love your opinion on some of the details. Harold is coming by tomorrow to finalize everything. Maybe you could be here. Give me your input. Tyler and Vanessa exchanged a look. I could practically see the dollar signs in their eyes. Of course, Tyler said smoothly. We'd be happy to help. Perfect. The next afternoon, Tyler and Vanessa arrived early. They were dressed sharply, professionally, ready to close the deal. Harold was already there, sitting at the dining room table with a stack of documents. Tyler, Vanessa, he said warmly. Thank you for coming. Our pleasure, Tyler replied, shaking his hand. Mom said you had some paperwork for us to review. Indeed, I do. Harold gestured to the chairs. Please sit. They sat. Harold opened his briefcase. Now, before we begin, I should mention that we have a few other guests joining us. Tyler frowned. Other guest. The doorbell rang. Claire went to answer it. A moment later, she returned with 4 people. 2 women and 2 men, all middle-aged or older. All looking at Tyler with expressions of barely contained fury. Tyler's face went pale. Who are these people? These, Harold said calmly, are some of your former clients. Or should I say victims? The first woman stepped forward. Her name was Patricia. You stole $200,000 from my mother, she said, her voice trembling. She died believing her own family had abandoned her. The second woman, Gloria, spoke next. You convinced my uncle he had Alzheimer's. He spent his last years in a facility he didn't need to be in, and you took his house. One of the men, Robert, crossed his arms. My father trusted you. He thought you were helping him invest his retirement. You cleaned him out completely. Tyler was on his feet now, backing toward the door. This is ridiculous. I don't know what these people are talking about. Sit down, Tyler. The voice came from the hallway. Danielle walked in holding Oliver's hand. Tyler went white as a ghost. Danielle, what the hell are you doing here? Telling the truth, she said simply. Finally, Oliver looked up at his father, the father he'd never met, with wide, confused eyes. Mommy, who's that man? Danielle knelt down beside her son. That's nobody, sweetie. Just nobody. Tyler lunged forward. You can't do this. You signed an agreement. An agreement you coerced me into signing under threat. Danielle stood her ground. My lawyer says it won't hold up. Neither will yours. Harold cleared his throat. Tyler, Vanessa, I'm going to make this very simple. We have evidence of fraud, elder abuse, financial exploitation, and conspiracy. The district attorney's office has already been contacted. If you fully cooperate, there may be room for a deal. If you don't. He shrugged. Well, let's just say prison time is on the table. Vanessa turned on Tyler, her face contorted with rage. This was your plan. You said we'd be fine. You said, shut up. Tyler snapped. Just shut up and let me think. But there was nothing to think about. It was over, and he knew it. Tyler looked at me then. Really looked at me. And for just a moment, I saw something behind the mask. A flicker of the boy he used to be. The boy who cried at sad movies and rescued stray cats. Mom, he whispered. Please. I walked toward him slowly. Stood right in front of him. I loved you, I said quietly. More than you'll ever know. I would have given you everything, my house, my money, my whole heart if you'd just asked. If you'd just been honest. Tears started rolling down his cheeks. But you didn't ask. You lied. You hurt people I love. You hurt your own aunt. You abandoned your own child. I shook my head. I don't know who you are anymore, and I don't think I want to know. I stepped back. Harold, call the police. Tyler didn't resist when they came. Neither did Vanessa. They were led out in handcuffs, heads bowed. While the neighbors watched from their porches, I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt ... tired. But also, somehow, free. The months that followed were hard. Tyler and Vanessa both took plea deals. They avoided the worst sentences, but they'd be spending time behind bars. Real time. And when they got out, there'd be probation. Community service. Restitution payments to their victims. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. Danielle and Oliver stayed in town. I helped her find an apartment, a better job, a support system. Oliver started calling me Grandma almost immediately. And every time he said it, my heart grew a little bigger. Claire moved in with me permanently. We converted the basement, that horrible basement, to a beautiful guest suite. New paint, new furniture, lots of windows. We wanted to transform it into something good, something healing. And slowly we did. One evening, about 6 months later, Claire and I were sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset. Oliver was playing in the yard with a puppy we'd adopted, a scruffy little mutt named Biscuit. Danielle was inside, making dinner. The air smelled like summer and fresh-cut grass. Kaya, Claire said softly, can I tell you something? Anything. She was quiet for a moment. When I was in that basement, when I was sleeping on that floor, I thought about giving up. A lot. I thought maybe it would be easier to just stop fighting. My heart ached. But then I'd think about you, she continued. about how you came back for me after Richard died, how you never gave up, even when things were so hard. And I told myself, if Maggie can keep going, so can I. I reached over and took her hand. We saved each other, I said. That's what sisters do. She smiled. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen in so long. I love you, Maggie. Love you too, Claire. Oliver ran up to us then, Biscuit yapping at his heels. Grandma, Aunt Claire? Mommy says dinner's ready. We stood up, laughing, and followed him inside. The house was full of noise and warmth and life. The table was set with mismatched plates and too much food. Danielle was telling some story about her day at work, gesturing wildly with a wooden spoon. It wasn't the life it planned. It wasn't the family I'd expected, but sitting there, surrounded by people who loved Mir, realized something. This was better. This was so much better. I looked around the table at the faces of the people who mattered most. Claire. Finally healthy and happy, Danielle. Strong and brave and kind, Oliver. Innocent and joyful and full of wonder. And I thought about all the pain we'd been through, all the betrayal and heartbreak and loss. But I also thought about what came after, the healing, the rebuilding, the love, and I knew with absolute certainty that we were going to be okay, more than okay. We were going to be happy. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stood in the doorway of my living room and looked at the photos on the mantel. There was one of Richard smiling in the sunlight, one of Claire and me as kids, one of Oliver's 4th birthday party, and one new one, a photo from just last week, me, Claire, Danielle, and Oliver, standing in the backyard with Biscuit, jumping at our feet. We were all laughing. We were all together. We were family. I touched the frame gently. We made it, I whispered to no one, to everyone, to myself. Then I turned off the light and went to bed. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I slept peacefully with a big smile on my face.